what would happen if I actually tried to work this thing, and stopped worrying about everything else. Stop the video games, stop the extracurriculars, and we focused on this and decided that we're going to do this and we're going to do it to the best of our ability.
If you want to have more, you have to become more. Knowing what you're going to give up, knowing what you're going to go after, all of that's important.
If I look back on that, as far as understanding that, hey, look, everything's going to be okay, pivot, be flexible, just don't stop, do what you have to do. And keep moving forward. I feel like you remember more about our history than I do, because I'm listening to you say that, and I'm like, yeah, I guess he's right. Good job on your homework, I guess.
Welcome to today's episode with Cody Brasseal. Cody is a long-time vet within the HVAC space. He works down in Lafayette, Louisiana, running a business called Acadiana Comfort Systems. And he's been running this business since 2012. And he struggled for a while. In fact, it was a long time before I happened to meet up with Cody and try to help him with his marketing, because they were struggling along. They were running a couple $100,000 at the time, and really struggled to get over that hump, really struggled to push past the limitations that they were at. And working with Cody was an absolute blast. I truly, truly, truly loved working with him and his wife, Emily. They've built an incredible business now for not just themselves, but they've started a young family too. And they're doing an incredible job down at Lafayette. And I think you're really going to enjoy this episode to hear not just what he's doing now that helped him to continue to grow his business. He's now at $4 million in annual revenue, but also what he did to get over the hump. What were the struggles? What were the pain points? How did he push past that to hit his first million and then jump from 1 million to 4 million in annual revenue? It's no small feat. So I think you're going to really appreciate this episode and get some nuggets out of it. You've been in the industry for a very long time. You were a technician for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And then you went through a long period where it was one-man shop, just doing your own thing. So why don't you kind of, I guess, start with that, walk through your journey into the trades, why you started with it in the first place, and then getting to where you're at now and being able to run a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah. I've been in the trade my whole life, so I think my story started, like many others, with my father was an HVAC mechanic as well. And he was also somewhat of an entrepreneur. And I think that there's probably two different types of entrepreneurs. There's people who like challenges, and they are excited about it. Excites them to run a business and to, accomplish things. And then there's people that just can't work for other people. And those people tend to sometimes end up on their own as well. And I think my dad was probably one of those, and I think I'm kind of a little bit of the same when it goes there. So I think that I inherited both of those traits from him. When it comes to the skill that our family grew up, I was very young, probably 9, 10, 11 years old, and walking around on the rooftops of the Popeyes and the local KFCs and following him around. Making like a nickel an hour or something ridiculous like that. And then I remember one time I tried to negotiate a raise, and this is when I figured out I was probably going to struggle in business a little bit. And I ended up somehow negotiating a pay decrease instead of a pay increase. And he agreed to it, and I was like, how did that happen? How did I, Well, anyway, I got both of those from him. I learned my skill from him, and then also his kind of entrepreneurial, I guess, personality. It made sense that I ended up starting my own business. Anyway, now looking back, I didn't know that at the time. So I've been in this my whole life. I definitely, for the first 10 years that I was in business, probably 10 years or close to it, it definitely was a one-man show, because I never really wanted to own a business, and I never really wanted to work. What I wanted to do was do my own thing. Like, I wanted to have the freedom of time to be able to go and whatever it was that I was into at the moment, I didn't want to have to show up to an 8 to 5 and be locked into the schedule of I got to be here from this time to this time. So I used my business. Well, that doesn't work in business. Whenever you have customers and you have bills and you have, all of these responsibilities, that just doesn't work. And it reminds me of, like I say this quite a bit whenever people are asking me what is business like, especially when they're thinking about going into business. And there's this like particular scene in the movie The Patriot where Mel Gibson is talking to the colonies, and they're asking about going to war, and they're saying, well, we hear that you're a patriot, like you don't want war. And I don't remember exactly how the scene plays out, but there was this one like line that he gave that to me perfectly sums up what business actually is. And he says at the end, why would I trade one tyrant 10,000 miles away for 10,000 tyrants 1 mile away? And that's what business is. Like but it's not tyrants, it's customers, but when you work for someone, you've got one boss. Like I know that I have to be here. I know that I have a job to do, and that job consists of X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to be there from 8 to 5 or whatever it is. And that is, that's what I'm supposed to do. I know this. And then when you go into business, now you have 10,000 bosses. Every customer you have, to some degree, to whatever level is reasonable and you will allow, is your boss. And so that's much heavier, I think.
I'm curious, do you feel like there's one entrepreneur that's better than the other, like the one that prefers challenge or the one that's a bad employee? Or is it necessary to have both? Can you just be one and still get away with it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I was talking to someone the other day, and we had this specific conversation, and we talked about personality types, and it seemed that people, I think that both can do well. So to answer the question, I've seen both do well. I think the ones that do the best are people who suffer well and are willing to sacrifice more than what the normal person is able to sacrifice. And you hear that, you hear that, like I think I've heard people say it in a way that the successful person does what the unsuccessful person is unwilling to do. And like that's very cliche, but it's the truth. And it just depends, because you'll have the business owner who's the technician, and the technician is too busy turning tools all day to actually grow the business. But I mean, man, I know a lot of business owners who've been in business for 25, 30 years and live comfortably, and they're still running service calls, right? So what is the ambition there? Like, what is the goal? And like, I had to sit down and decide. I could remember the moment that I made the decision that I was going to grow, and I was going to have employees, and I was going to try and take this thing as far as it could go. Like, I remember the moment, because it wasn't always like that for me, but I could clearly remember the moment that I made the decision that, no, I've wasted this gift for however long, and from this day forward, that's going to change. Like, I'm going to make the most of what I've gotten, what I've been given. And so I think that both will do well. I think some well is the question, is what is well? Like, what is success to that particular person? And so I think it is a combination of what it is that you define as success, what is the goal, what is the destination, and how much are you willing to suffer to get there. And when I say suffer, I mean, like, what are you willing to give up, whether that's time, whether that's money, you take risk and gamble, so on and so forth. And so I think that both can do well. It just depends. It depends ultimately on what you define as well and what you define as success.
You hit the nail on the head, because it's not about what happens to you. It's about what you decide to do from there. You made a decision. Mm-hmm. We're going to get to that in a second. But it's also like you said, the suffering. Are you willing to sacrifice what it takes in order to succeed and achieve what it is that you want to achieve? Mm-hmm. You look at someone like an Elon Musk, has achieved massively in business. But I've been listening to his autobiography and the story of his journey, and the things that he is willing to do in order to succeed, in order to make something happen. It's unbelievable, the hours that he puts in. And what does it cost him? Relationships. How many failed marriages? How many kids does he have? And I can't remember all the numbers. I'm not going to try and quote it, but I wouldn't give up my relationship with my kids to achieve at that level.
Right.
I'm unwilling to
Yeah.
do that. Now, I am willing to give up other things in order to achieve, like video games and TV and shit like that. That just doesn't matter. But that's where it's going to get me to a certain level, but it's not going to get me to billionaire status. And I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. Right.
Right.
So being willing to understand what it is that it takes and what is it that you're willing to give up. I'm curious if you could walk me through your decision. What was that moment? What happened where you were put into, a proverbial corner, back was against the wall. You had to make a clear decision as to what it is that you wanted. What happened?
Yeah, I needed money. So I ran out of money, and I had bills that I couldn't pay, which meant that I had I had jobs that couldn't be done because I couldn't source material. That was the corner I was in. And man, I'm not gonna lie and say that it didn't cross my mind. Like, this is my ticket out, right? And like I'm a fight fan, and so I love UFC, I love boxing, and I hear people talk about fights all the time. Like, no one, and there's a guy that says that no one gets submitted. Like, at this point, at the level that you're fighting at, like, no one gets submitted. What happens is that they see a way out and they take it, and that's okay. Right. I mean, if you're done, you're done, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's still an experience. It's still something that is gonna, propel you forward and help you to grow. But that was kind of like the moment for me, and I'll be lying if I say that this is not my moment out. Hey, look, I tried, it didn't work out. I'm a fairly skilled person. Like, I have a lot of value that I could bring to someone who's better at the entrepreneurial side, and I know that I could do well even if I don't do this on my own. And so I had that thought. And then I also had the thought that, I've done this long, and I've been half in and half out. And so when I was sitting there, and I'm sitting on the back porch, and I'm about to have to ask for a loan, and I'm about to have to, go further into debt to get out of the debt that I've already created. So I'm about to create more debt to try and get out of the debt that I've already created. So it's a heavy situation. And I'm sitting there, and I'm having to make this decision. And the person told me, they said, I'll do this, but I need you to make a decision. Like, I'm not buying you more time so you can keep playing this game. Like, you need to make a decision. Yeah, I do. You're absolutely right. I should make a decision. Let me make that decision right now. So let me think about it. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, I've done this for almost the better part of a decade, and I have half in and half out. What would happen if I went all in? What would happen if I actually tried to work this thing? And stopped worrying about everything else. Stop the video games, stop the extracurriculars, and we focused on this and decided that we're going to do this and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. And that was a decision that I made, and now I was emotionally tied to it now because someone had stepped up to help me. And so that was the moment, and I clearly remember it. And that was the moment that things changed. My perspective changed about what I was doing. But just like we talked about earlier, like, at that point, I had a destination. I had a place that I was headed towards. I had a goal, and that was what changed for me. I've always been very, I would say, eccentric in personality, very I'm very all-in type personality, and so it was easy for me. Once I got in, I feel like sometimes I almost take it too far. But I think you're right about, when you're talking about Elon Musk, that's exactly what he's eccentric to the max. He's sleeping on the factory floor, and he's, and so once you find the destination, once you figure out where you're headed, then you got to ask yourself, what are you willing to give up? Because it's going to cost you more, but the reward is great too. So it costs more, but the reward is great, and you just have to know. You have to have that conversation with yourself, and hopefully before you end up in a corner, can you have that conversation with yourself?
So you made the decision to stop half-assing it, to
Yes.
go all in.
Yeah.
What happened from making that decision?
So then everything revolved at that point around business, and things did get better. So I obviously had to work myself out. Now I didn't. It wasn't a large amount of debt, but for somebody who's broke, anything is a lot. And so like I had to work my way out of that situation, and I started showing up when I said I was going to show up. I started putting in the time. I started saying, hey, I can't go do that because I have to do this. And at that moment was the moment where I actually began suffering, and trying to suffer well. Through the process of growing a business, then I hired my first employee, and then I bought my first truck, and then and then you begin to see growth, and you begin to see these hurdles that you're getting over, and you begin to get excited. You say, man, I've accomplished this, and I think it's just momentum. You get momentum, and then you ride that wave of momentum, and that was what happened. And we grew in 2 years from a one-man show that was doing a couple $100,000 to a multi-million-dollar company in just a matter of a couple of years. And so that was it, though. I mean, it's essentially to take that and just boil it down to what it is. I started showing up. And I started staying late. And I mean, that was what it was. And I knew what I wanted at that point. Whereas the day before, I really had no idea what I wanted. And so that one decision is powerful enough to make you show up and sleep on the factory floor, to try and accomplish your goal. But you have to know what that goal is before you can start trying to accomplish it.
Yep, 100%. At what point in that journey after the decision did you and I meet? Was it after all that debt was paid off, or were you still in the middle of that?
Yeah,
It was after.
Yeah. We were back on track. Man, when did had to have been 4 years back.
3 years now, yeah.
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah. So,
Before
but
this thing.
we did meet prior to us we met the same time we were getting into new construction. So
Right.
that was at the beginning of the most exponential amount of growth that we saw. So we met you roughly around the time that we started trending up, which was just on the heels of us, paying off that, getting ourselves out of that hole. Then we met y'all, and then we got into new construction, and then we started really growing. So it was roughly about the same time.
Got it. Well, and I've heard a lot of times the cliche sayings, if you want to have more, you have to become more. Knowing what you're going to give up, knowing what you're going to go after, all of that's important. Knowing why you want it, it's important. But understanding who it is that you have to become. What are the habits that are going to be necessary in order for me to achieve what it is that I want to achieve, to be a better dad, to be in better health, to be a great business owner? It's all the same shit. Run the same process through it. Understand who it is that you need to become in order to achieve it. I mean, success leaves clues.
Yeah.
You're not the first business to go from 400K to 3 million plus in a very short amount of time, right? There's tons of other opportunities out there that you can learn from, and you've done that now, and you're investing in a coaching program. We'll get to that a little later too. But you did make the decision to invest in some marketing first.
Yeah.
Which was a huge step for you. I think it was almost
Scary.
triple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was more than it was so much more than triple. It was one of those moments where you look down at the number and you just think to yourself, am I an idiot? Is there any way, and it's not necessarily like, am I an idiot? I think what is more truthful is like, am I gonna be able to afford this? And it was a scary moment, for sure. But it's just like anything else. I mean, you invest in, and then you expect to see a return out. And I'd say that was probably one of the best investments that we made over the years. We've made quite a few investments, but that one was one of the first major investments that we made, was marketing with you guys. And it was, man, I want to tell you how much we were paying SEO, and I'm not gonna say how much we were paying y'all, but I think this company we were paying like $250 a month or something like that, and so it was comfortable. We could afford that, but it was comfortable for us, but it got us nowhere. It didn't get us anywhere in the rankings. We weren't even in the game as far as digital marketing goes. Like we were trying to play a game that we weren't even showing up to, is kind of how I look at it, right? And we didn't start showing up. We didn't start actually having that presence and being a part of the game that is played locally through, until we got with y'all. And at that point, then you Googled HVAC in your area, and boom, we're in the ring, with everybody else. We're in the ring with Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and everybody else. But that didn't happen by chance. That happened with a really uncomfortable decision to do something that scared us half to death at the time. And it paid off. It was the first big risk I think we ever took, other than starting a business and making that decision to to press forward whenever I was in that corner. That was probably the first real big decision I made, and the second one was, that investment, I feel like.
Well, that's Jim Rohn talks about all the riches lie just beyond your comfort zone. Right. Every time you push yourself outside of that comfort zone, whether it's a buying decision, an investment decision within the business, whether it's an activity and pushing yourself beyond that, you thought you could only make 40 sales calls in a week, you push yourself and get 50, right? You thought that you couldn't hire that extra truck or extra technician and go get another truck, and then you do it, right? All of those are a series of decisions that lead to the results that you're chasing. By the way, shout out to On Purpose Media, Thaddeus, my former business partner. Obviously we worked together, Cody, and while I was there, and you're still with them, and they're doing great work for you. And
Yes, they are.
go check out On Purpose Media. We'll give them a quick shout out for that. At some point, because you started working with us, we started getting the SEO going. That first year, I think the goal was to get to 1 million.
Yeah.
And we were so close, but that was also COVID.
Yeah.
And in the middle of summer, you guys got rocked with COVID and a hurricane, and you missed out on 3 weeks of prime selling. And had we had those 3 weeks, I definitely think we would have achieved that first $1 million year.
Yeah, that's
Talk
crazy.
about the adversity that you face in business, and being able to overcome that, pivot, and still go after big numbers even when things aren't going your way.
I feel like you remember more about our history than I do, because I'm listening to you say that, and I'm like, I guess he's right. Good job on your homework, I guess. But I remember that year. That was a tough year for us. That was a tough year for everybody. And that was if you want to talk about the art of the pivot, and being flexible and just, changing on the fly, like that was the year for everybody to figure that out. The people who made it and the people who, maybe didn't thrive but did well during that time were the people who mastered the art of the pivot in a short amount of time. You just had to. You said we shut down. We literally shut down. And we didn't have to because we were essential, but we did have to because people were sick. And then people were, and then one person gets sick and then they can't be around another person. Well, the whole crew was around this person. So we literally had to shut down for a period of time, but it wasn't over whenever we came back to work. We came back to work and we were still struggling with customers that were canceling because they had constant people rotating people in and out. And how do you proceed with the work in their homes and make them feel comfortable? And how do you handle the situation is so different, because you walk into a house and one person is saying that they don't, this doesn't believe, it's just the flu. And so you just, there was, I feel like if I look back on that, as far as understanding that, hey, look, everything's going to be okay. Pivot, be flexible, just don't stop. Do what you have to do, and keep moving forward. I think that was the year that we learned that. And then after that year, I mean, we grew. We've doubled every year since that year. And but that was a tough one. So you make the decision, you dig yourself out of a hole, and then you're slammed with COVID, and you're trying to figure that out. And so yeah, trial by fire, for sure.
It was a fun time. It was unlike anything most people have
Yeah,
ever
I mean,
experienced. That's for sure.
yeah, we're not even talking about the business side of things. We're talking about customers, but the supply
Yeah.
chain issues, not being able to get
Oh God.
things. I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, it was a hell of a time to get your shit together and stop trying to half-ass it and grow a business. For sure.
Well, and then that brought us to your next pivot, which was adding in the builders and working with
Hmm.
new construction. Now,
Right.
a lot of guys look down on new construction. They
Hmm.
they they don't want to be a part of it. They don't
Yeah.
want anything to do with it. There's low margins. It's hard to be
Hmm.
profitable. Long pay periods. I mean, you name it. There's a litany of
Hmm.
things. But you chose to look at it a little bit differently, and you did dive into it as a way to grow your business in terms of top line revenue, but also find ways to still be profitable within it and use that as a springboard to really train technicians. So,
Hmm.
walk us through like that initial dive into the new construction, but also how you've continued to adapt to it over time, over these last couple of years.
Yeah, I was one of those guys. I never I had plenty of opportunities, I think, to do new construction over the years, and I never really wanted to because I had the same view that I feel like most people do have is you work way too hard for a small amount for a small reward. I think was and then um, I had and I had that view. I had that view going in, but I had one moment that I felt as though this may actually be possible. And I had a friend that had worked for me for a short period of time, and they started their own business, and they got into the new construction, and I mean, went on a tear. I mean, one of those situations in life where you're wondering what you did wrong. You know what I mean? You're like, wow, like I've been doing this, 10, 12 years now, and this Joker's been in for a year, and he's killing it. And you fight those battles. You try not to be jealous, try not to judge, try not to do all that. But I think anyone would lie if they say that they didn't look at situations like that and sometimes feel those feelings, and you just shut that down and you keep worrying about you. But so I watched that happen. I mean, go like crazy. I mean, crazy amount of success in a short period of time. And then unfortunately, I feel like it was too much, too fast, and I watched it unravel. And because this person I knew, I was very close to. I was there during the up and there during the down, and I saw some of the things that I believed were done incorrectly that I thought I could capitalize on. And I thought that was the moment that I said, you know what, I think I could do this. Like I've had the opportunity to watch it. I've watched it be done well, then I've watched it not be done so well. And these are the things that I saw that I thought I would be able to implement and do this well. And those things are very simple. The the what I would say the magic sauce to new construction is efficiency. It is that and nothing else. It is an efficiency game, and if you are inefficient, meaning if you are unorganized, if you are a gunslinger in the wild wild west playing every day, you have no plan, you're just getting and going, and that's how this is being done. Then it is a very tough business to be profitable in. It is a very tough business to be successful in. But if everything is implemented in a way that is organized and detailed and intentional, then you will be efficient, and if you are efficient, you will do well. Most people are not capable, I feel like, because they've never had to be, because there are, by design, larger margins in the HVAC business when it comes to sales from retrofits and uh, and sales and service. And so you don't necessarily have to be the most rigid and detailed and intentional with everything, because there's a little buffer. There's a little buffer there for you to be able to be profitable. But when you're talking about, one service call, one call back, whatever, and you've blown the profit right out of the water for that job, then that becomes a problem. And so I thought that I could make those better. We then made the decision to try and make it better and do it on our own. And I didn't want to work for 50 different people because I thought that was incredibly inefficient. So I went to the three biggest in our area and I cold called them. I walked in to the office, asked for the purchasing manager, and I walked into the office and sat down and told that person that you need me. I'm the best. And I was terrible. I mean, like I in my mind knew that I could be the best, but at that time, there's a guy an old builder friend of mine that I used to work with a lot, and we don't work together anymore because he's moved out to Texas and he's doing big things. But he invited me over to his house one night, and we're sitting back and we're eating steaks and we're drinking beer, and he says, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Yeah, man, of course." And he says, when you first started working with me, he said, "Had you ever done new construction before?" And I was like, "Nah, man, hell no. Like, I'd never done new." I said, "How did you know?" He said, "Well, there's an electrician that worked for me." He said, "You were asking him what size heat kit and what size, breaker that you needed to tell me." And he said, the electrician came to me and said, "You should be worried. This guy is not very experienced." And I mean, he was right. When it came to, design and sizing and trying to figure things out for a new construction project, he was absolutely right. But, I knew that if I was given the opportunity, I could be the best. I could bring something to the table that I felt like was unique to me. And so I went to the three biggest guys in our area. I sat down. I spoke to the future and not to my present, by saying that, "Hey, I'm the best." And I got the job. I got the job with all of them. And we started rolling, which gave us volume, which is another important part of production HVAC, is you need to be able to do it efficiently. And that's, that is a business model that if you can replicate can serve you very, very well. But I was making it up as I went. I'm not gonna lie. So
Well, so speak to the future, right?
yeah.
And that's what you used as your selling point. I love
Mm-hmm.
that philosophy, but you got to be able to back it up. You got to be able to
Mm-hmm.
deliver.
Yeah.
So, what did you do? What was your process to ensure that you were able to not only achieve what it is that you said you were going to, but over
Yeah.
achieve on the expectations that you set out for yourself? Marketing isn't magic, it's math. At Free Agency, we've got the formula tattooed on our brains. We are not a digital marketing agency. We don't just throw things at the wall hoping they stick and call it strategy. We're a fractional CMO. The people who come in, grab the wheel, and drive your growth like it owes us money. Our system isn't guesswork, it's battle tested at the highest level. Last year, our clients averaged 45% growth. We've taken companies from 8 figures to 9 in just 12 months. And here's the kicker: we don't do it by blowing your budget. We do it by spending smarter and focusing on 4 core moves. 1, branding, to drive your brand in your market. 2, paid leads. We bring in high intent leads into the business, customers who are ready to buy. Conversion, focusing on turning those leads into clients. And lastly, nurturing, to increase the lifetime value of every single client. Every step is intentional. Every dollar is tracked. And if you're spending $1 million a year in marketing without a 10x return, yeah, you're flushing money down the drain. We work with ambitious, no BS contractors who don't just want to try marketing. They want to win. So if you're ready for 50 to 100% growth in the next 12 months, let's talk. At Free Agency, we don't just play the game. We rewrite the rules so that you win every time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's important because can you imagine 3 years in now? We haven't got fired yet, so it obviously
Must be
worked
doing
out.
something right.
But you're right. I mean, I had no experience in that marketplace, and I had to figure out. So the first thing that we did was we went to every vendor and we spoke to our future again. I didn't tell them that I'm going to be doing 5 houses a month for the next 2, 3 months. I told them that, hey, I've landed these deals and these people are doing X amount of houses and we're working for them. And if you need to talk to them, I'll get them on the phone and they'll confirm this. But I need pricing. I need pricing that looks like, that looks like this. Like I need this. And that's how we had to do it. Had I gone in and said, yeah, I may be doing a couple of houses a month for the night, like, oh, man, I would have never gotten that. Like I had a clear vision of being the biggest and the best. And that allowed me to be able to speak to that, I think. And then people were very excited to work with me. And so they got me what I needed. And, I had good relationships. I had one guy in particular that we worked with very, 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 very closely on pricing to get our materials down. And had it not been for that guy, then we probably wouldn't have been able to afford to be able to get into this market. But we worked very closely with him. I always spoke to where we were headed and not where we were right now. And eventually we got there. Eventually we got to, we got to the numbers that we needed, and so we were able to get the pricing. But the pricing wasn't everything. I mean, you still had to have the processes, bring something unique to the table. And at the time, the thing that we were doing, and this was based off of my inadequacy in where it came, where it in new construction, I think. From a building standpoint, because I really didn't know. Like I didn't really know how to figure out what size. I mean, we had rules of thumbs, but I didn't know how to figure out what size unit the house needed other than a rule of thumb. I didn't know how to figure out what size duct went in this room versus this room. So I decided really, really quick that, okay, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to learn these processes. And we got into the ACCA manual JSD, and I don't think there's any reason to dive much deeper into that, but that is literally the science behind air conditioning and how to appropriately design and install. And I got into that heavy. And I spent a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of hours figuring that out, educating myself. And then what I found was once I had gotten to a point of confidence with that, then I was able to value engineer things that didn't cost me quality on the back end. So I was able to take really smart design decisions and make things work better than they technically should have worked, but didn't have to spend a whole lot of money to make it work because I knew what I was doing. I knew that I knew that if this happened and I did this, then that would be the result. And so we were able to save some. We were able to save some money on the front end just by good design and good engineering, where it wasn't the same thing on every house. So we didn't have this assembly line, cookie cutter type. Every house gets this, and every big room gets this size, and every small room gets this size. We didn't have that, so it was a little bit more complicated because people would make fun of me that we were the only contractor that there was a different size supply grill in every single room of the house. And I was like, yeah, well, that's by design, and then people were like, hey, we use 8s and 6s, and I'm like, man, if they made a 3-inch duct, I would use a 3-inch duct, and so we were able to save some money. We were able to value engineer well. And again, that was something that at the time I was learning that no one valued at all. No one valued that process. Most people had a really bad outlook on that process and said that it didn't work. But I stuck to it. I spent the time, I spent the money, and kind of suffered through that. And that's tough. I mean, you're talking about reading is not my favorite subject and then not my favorite thing to do, but I did it. And that gave me the confidence, to some point that I was able to get to where I saw myself. I was able to reach that goal. I was able to back up what I said in that office when I walked in cold calling, saying I'm the best. From that moment forward, the moment I got hired, my sole goal was to be the best. And so that was what I did. I did what I had to do to try and give myself the confidence that I'm the best in my area at what I do. Now, there's a million other people better than me at all kinds of stuff, you know. But in my area, I feel like I would stand shoulder to shoulder with anybody and say that when it comes to design and when it comes to production housing, at track home and design in our local little area, our little small world, our little small bubble, that I'm the best. And that was because I said I was going to be the best at one point, and then I wouldn't figure out how to be the best. So,
Well, I want you to get up on your soapbox here for a minute and just speak to some of the poorly designed systems that you see, both new construction and in the retrofit market. There's a lot of shoddy work that gets put together. You see it in the Facebook groups all the time. The pictures
yeah,
get posted. Saw one the other day where a Folgers can was used to put together two pieces of duct.
yeah.
Yeah, just I'll let you go off and speak to that a little bit as someone who studied it, wanted to master their craft and really hone their craft so that they could be exceptionally efficient in a market that is usually really difficult to be really profitable in.
Yeah, so I mean that's some value engineering. I mean you got to do what you got to do. Folgers can, you know, I'm sure it has some heat resistant and sweat resistant, you know, properties that we could make that work. You know, yeah, man, it's not so much shoddy work. It is. I say this all the time. People look, I get looks every time I say this, but the moment that I figured out what it was that I actually did for a living, and people say that you know, you sell air conditioners or you fix air conditioners, whatever. Very basic, right? Very basic minded. But what is it that we actually do? And you'll probably give me this look too. Just wait for it. What we actually do is we manipulate the properties of air and water, right? We are applying physics, we're applying thermodynamics, and we are applying fluid mechanics, uh, and controlling what air and water are going to do inside of a controlled environment, inside of an enclosure. We're creating an environment, we're creating an ecosystem, and we can either create a healthy ecosystem or we can create an unhealthy ecosystem at the end of the day. And so the moment that I got away from thinking that I'd simply install cold air boxes and I simply fix the parts when they break down on these cold air boxes, then I was free to think in terms of, well, this is much more complicated than what I originally thought, what I've thought my whole life. Because remember, I've been doing this my entire life. And so I feel like at that moment, I'm able to then get a little bit more excited about it. So yeah, so the moment that I realized that what we do is much more complicated in terms of practice than what I originally thought it was, then I was able to get a little bit excited about what I actually do. I was able to get a little bit more excited about HVAC design, HVAC installation. What are the proper methods of installation? What are the proper methods of design? Because they became a little bit more, not just intriguing, but it became a little bit more important when you start beginning and you start thinking that someone is creating an environment that someone else is going to exist in for a period of time. And then you say, well, why is that such a big deal? And then what I would say is that in many situations, I've been called into a home where the environment that was created was unhealthy, and there are now health concerns for the inhabitants, or there is a major remodel that is having to take place in a home that is not that old, and whether that stress is that the stress is from a health condition that was created by a home that is unhealthy, an environment that people are living in that is unhealthy, or whether that stress is created by just the financial burden of having to make remodel a home that I shouldn't have to remodel for the next 15 or 20 years, and I'm already having to, put forth this investment to do so. And then what I do becomes much more important, and being accurate and being precise and having a standard, and that becomes much more important. As far as the new construction industry goes, that was a huge left turn. I mean, we're talking about an industry that was predicated on rules of thumbs and low costs for a very long time, and then those rules of thumbs create problems, and then you step in to try and fill a void and try and say that this is the way, and maybe and a lot of this is climate dependent, but maybe you live in a wet climate, maybe you live in a dry climate. Us personally, we live in a swamp. We live in the middle of the Louisiana swamp, and so we have to deal with moisture, and it's as important as having to deal with heat. And so you have the opportunity to create unhealthy climates almost without even realizing it by simply worrying about whether or not something is cold and not worrying about whether something is comfortable, but also dry. We have to make sure that we're keeping things dry. And so that became a driver for, the decisions that I made moving forward in new construction, the continuing education of trying to figure out what the best way to do this is. And some people will probably say that I'm a relatively smart guy, and some people will say I'm absolutely eccentric and I'm an idiot. And I'm, at some point, what I'm saying is absolutely idiotic, and rules of thumb are still the way to go. But it's opinion. But at the end of the day, your opinion should always be based on on science, math, facts, and what is best for the customer and what is best for the homeowner, whether that customer is a builder, whether that customer is the actual occupant. And to some degree, you cannot let them tell you what's best for them, because they don't know. You're the professional. And if someone says, I want it to be 65 degrees in my house, and they live in a wet climate zone, then you should be thinking like, this is going to be a petri dish. Like, I know you think you want that, but what you really want is comfort. So let's have a discussion about how we can get you comfortable and then do that safely. And so that is where I think we've made our mark, and we've probably, pissed some people off. And then we've got people who reach out to us and tell us that, man, y'all are doing something absolutely needed in our area, and I appreciate what y'all are doing. So we get it from both sides of the aisles, but it's different nonetheless. It's a different approach for our area.
Well, if you're not pushing the envelope, if you're not trying to go outside of what's always been done, you're only going to get what you've always got. Right. And if you're constantly going into homes, and I remember when you started to have these realizations, and we were having some conversations around it, and we were talking about the mold that you were finding in homes, and just how bad some of the indoor air quality environments were because of that. It wasn't necessarily that you just needed a UV light in there. That wasn't going to fix anything. No. It was truly about removing moisture from the home, and how do we do that in a cost-effective way, but also help homeowners understand that investing in this is going to be substantially less than having to completely gut your home because it's just festered with black mold. So, and especially like you said, down in your climate where you are, like you get up to 100% humidity in the summertime. I couldn't even imagine working in an attic down there in southern Louisiana. It's something else, but you have to look at different solutions in order to come out with a different outcome. Yeah.
And it's not even the extreme cases it's the stuff that you're not even aware of. I mean, if you think nowadays, if you talk indoor air quality, I mean, you think about how houses used to be built with different materials. They were very loose. They had a great exchange, a significant amount of air exchange from the outdoors to the indoors. And so there was a certain amount of dilution. Now, whether that dilution it's obviously uncontrolled, and whether that was actually good for you or not. But I mean, these days, these houses are so tight that you are needing to think in terms of indoor air quality about moisture. You're needing to think in terms of indoor air quality about pollutants like Glade plugins, cooking oils, all of the things that no one really ever talks about. And then you take some of these UV lights.
Candles.
Yes, scented candles, incense, hairsprays. I mean, you're like, wait, hold up. You're telling me what? I'm like, yeah. These houses are getting so tight that hairspray could affect your health, and maybe you don't know. Like, maybe like you're waking up every day and by lunch you've got a migraine, and you have no idea what's going on. You think you're just prone to migraines, and the truth is that you're not really prone to migraines. The environment that you exist in for the majority of the time during the day and during the night is a polluted environment with poor indoor air quality, and your body is reacting to that. And but you don't know. No one is really talking about this on a large scale. The largest scale out there at the moment is, let's throw an air scrubber, a UV light, a Remy Halo. Let's throw it in there, and and that's not going to. Those are all great products, and there's nothing wrong with indoor air quality products and offering people and giving them what they want. But there's side effects to those products as well. Those products create ozone and other harmful chemicals that can end up affecting the indoor air quality of the home as well. And so the most successful thing that you can do is to build a house tight, ventilate it right, and you need to control the air that's coming in and dilute it. The solution to pollution is dilution. And the same is true for indoor air quality. Now, does that mean that you don't need to install the products like the indoor, like the air scrubbers and the Remy Halos? Like, no, it's fine. As long as as long as you are aware of what you're actually installing. But filtration and ventilation, and those are the things that are going to affect the indoor air quality in your home much more. You'll have a much healthier environment if you have an aggressively sized air conditioner that runs for long periods of time. If you have the right size filter, and everything in the house can pass through that filter, and so you're cleaning up particulates and all these different things that are going to affect your allergies and sinuses, and then you're ventilating that house and you're getting rid of the hairspray. You will have a much better outcome when you're trying to tackle a topic like indoor air quality.
No, 100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I mean, it's the equivalent of going to see the doctor. And, a lot of times a doctor will just give you some medication and they're just treating a symptom.
That
They're
is
not
correct.
actually looking for the root cause of what it is that's causing the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking at, is how do we dive in and really solve this problem on a higher level by thinking of things differently and coming up with a new solution. So I love that, my friend. Thank you for sharing that. Hopefully it'll inspire at least one other technician, owner, etc., to go and dive deep into this. What information can you share as to what it is that you went and took? I think you said it was the ACCA Manual J. That's what you did?
Yeah.
That's where
Yes.
you learned a lot of this?
So ACCA is it is the Air Conditioning Contractors of America. It's an association that facilitates the writing, or facilitates the information. And there's so many. Manual J is the most commonly known, but you can get those manuals, and there's Manual J, SD, Manual CS, Manual T, Manual HP, Manual A B C D E B, whatever. There's a million, but
Elemental P.
yeah, this information is probably close to now 75, almost close, probably getting close to a decade of science and research that it will at least inform you as to what to expect when you are installing, what to expect the outcome will be if you do X, Y, and Z, right? And I think that is the most important thing that you can do for yourself, is get deadly precise with the outcome. Like, get to a point where you understand the fluid mechanics, the physics, the thermodynamics, not the cold air in a box, but the actual sciences and math, and use them to your advantage to be able to predict with a deadly accuracy what's going to happen inside of that house, and what's going to happen, what type of environment you're going to create for these people. And then furthermore, in a conversation that would happen on a later date, is that at that point, once you were solid in your understanding of these things, then the notorious blaming of the air conditioning guy for everything that goes wrong in a home has to stop, because you now know that, hey, look, this is the problem that you're having, and this is not my issue, because this, and I can prove to you, and I don't know how many binds I've gotten myself out of that historically the AC company gets blamed for, that we're able to say, actually, no, like science would say that unit is sweating because you have high moisture content in the attic, and that's not my problem. Like cold air is not a malfunction. And so this sweating of this unit and on this, not our issue. Like that is an issue with a different system that maybe is an issue with your attic or ventilation system. So there's so many benefits. But if you go to ACCA.org, all the manuals are available. I mean, you can eBay, Amazon, you can get them just about anywhere these days. Educate yourself. Alex Meany is a great resource. Guy helped me very early on. Has a website called meanhvac.com, and he does training and all kinds of stuff. And then, somebody needs help, they can always reach out to me as well. I'll help you with whatever I can. But that's where you start. And you need to understand what you do from a scientific and mathematical standpoint, and to a point that you can predict with that should be your goal. Not saying that anybody can, but you can predict with a deadly accuracy the outcome before you even install or do the work.
I love it. And where can people reach out to you? What's the best way?
You can send me an email, cjbrasseal@acadianacomfort.com. You can reach me on social media. Acadiana Comfort is the name of our business. You can reach out there. You can find me, Cody J. Brasseal, on Facebook, any of the social media platforms. You can find us on, or just shoot me an email.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure to add all that down in the show notes, give you some good links. Send some link juice back to the website as well, because we always like to help out with the SEO side of things. Any final thoughts that you want to leave viewers with before we go?
No, no, man. I appreciate you doing this. I like the name of the show. It reminded me when I read it, because I was like, man, what is, and I read it and I said, that's like me calling my buddy from the truck and saying, hey, let's vent. And, everything that I want to say. So I like the idea. I'm happy for you, and I appreciate you bringing me on and allowing me to have this conversation with you.
I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on. We talked about this early on in your journey of coming on the show eventually and kind of earning that right by doing it. You've definitely done that and then some. I think this is long overdue. You've done a tremendous job at really diving in and solving problems within the business, looking at ways for efficiency. You talked about that being the secret sauce. I think efficiency is sexy. And the more that you can dive into that, there you go. The more that you can dive into that in your business, the better off you're going to be, the more profitable you're going to be, the more solutions that you can come up with. And, something that an old mentor of mine talked about all the time was start, stop, keep. Every time that you're going into a planning session, looking at what is it that we need to start doing in order to hit this goal? What do we need to stop doing that didn't work? And then what do we need to make sure that we keep doing? Because it's so easy to get caught up on these new projects, these new ideas, and these new things that we want to learn. And we stop doing the things that got us to where we're at today. So I think diving into those things, that's what allows us to become more efficient, allows us to become more profitable as a business, that we can do all the fun things for our technicians. It's not just about being greedy and making a bunch of money, but how can we give back? How can we add value? How can we help other people in the trades continue to grow and expand? And that's why we do this show too. We just have fun and shoot the shit. It's good.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think you just got to take the guesswork out. You have to be intentional, and you have to get yourself to a point where, and which is why we hired, why we've got to a point where we've hired mentors. Everybody needs a mentor. We've hired coaches because I need to know as certain as I can be what the outcome is going to be before I do it. And I'm not always going to get it right. But if you want to be efficient and you want to be successful and you want to be and you want to grow, then you need to do that early, and you need to be able to predict that outcome in business. On a job site, in your personal relationships, whatever it is, you need to be able to predict that outcome relatively precisely. And so whatever it is, whether it's business or whether it's HVAC or design or whatever, that you have to get yourself to a point where you have that great of an understanding. So I think you summed it up quite well. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for coming on. And
Yep.
until next time, we'll chat again.
Awesome. Thank you, Evan.
Cheers. Thanks so much for tuning in. Definitely want to hear what you thought of this episode. Leave a comment down below, let us know. And if you really want to show some support back to us, we could really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button as well. And if you did want to get notified when we come out with a new episode, hit the bell icon over there. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
What would happen if I actually tried to work this thing, and stopped worrying about everything else, stop the video games, stop the extracurriculars, and we focused on this and decided that we're going to do this and we're going to do it to the best of our ability.
If you want to have more, you have to become more. Knowing what you're going to give up, knowing what you're going to go after, all of that's important.
If I look back on that, as far as understanding that, hey, look, everything's going to be okay, pivot, be flexible, just don't stop, do what you have to do, and keep moving forward. I feel like you remember more about our history than I do, because I'm listening to you say that, and I'm like, yeah, I guess he's right. Good job on your homework, I guess.